So thank you all for joining us again for our small business webinar series. My name is Desiree Brown. I'm the Senior Communications Manager here at the Tory Burch Foundation. We are so excited here to have, okay, your numbers are still climbing, a session on project management, something that you've all been asking for. And we finally figured out the best way to approach the subject and a great person to present on it. So I have Candace here. Candace M. Clarke is the founder and CTO of High Tech Consulting, helping skilled professionals pivot and profit in emerging industries. Her company specializes in helping solopreneurs, which we know a lot of you are, organizational leaders, and small teams implement systems and technology to automate business processes, increase capacity, and effectively utilize resources. So again, we are so thrilled to have Candace here. After that, we will have plenty of time for Q&A. So be sure to put your questions for Candace in the Q&A box and use the chat for introductions and connecting with each other. As a reminder, today's session will be recorded and we will be sending out an email with the replay link. So please watch your inboxes for that. And with that, over to you, Candace.
Yes, thank you so much for that introduction, Desiree. I will go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully that is good for everyone. So, like Desiree shared, I am Candace Clarke. I'm the founder and CTO at High Tech Consulting, where we work with impactful brands and businesses to help them improve their efficiency and their revenue with the use of digital tools. So today's topic, project management pro tips, is really meant to share practical tips and tools that are going to help busy women like yourselves improve their focus, increase their productivity, not just in their business, but even in their lives. And that's regardless of whether you might have a small team or, like Desiree mentioned, you're doing it as a solopreneur. So just a little bit of background information about myself. So in 2020, like a lot of people, I found myself without a job. But while it was definitely inconvenient, I also saw it as an opportunity to assess my skills and figure out how I could make the next move my best move, as they say. So what I did, I decided to start volunteering. I started working with just local organizations in my community. And doing that, it allowed me time to just strategically think about how I can use my skills to serve my community while I'm still improving my financial situation, changing the trajectory of my career, and then most of all, improving my quality of life. So I really feel like my skills in project management really developed out of a necessity, because I wasn't a traditional project manager. I didn't take any courses unless you count my addiction to online courses, but that's another story. So what I did, like I said, I just had to assess my skills. I didn't stop and say, like, let me go get this fancy project management certificate. I just had to get to work. I just had to do it. And I know that as women, we find ourselves in a similar situation where things need to get done and it all falls on us. So by utilizing my project management skills, I was really able to plan out how I could pivot into new industries and do all those things that I want to do, but still manage everything and make sure that I'm showing up as my best self. So just a little bit of background. What is project management? So project management is the process of planning, organizing, and overseeing the execution of a specific project. It's going to have specific goals and criteria that need to be met. So when you see the definition of project management, we really realize how it relates to everything in your life. So for instance, if you're a freelancer, you might work with multiple clients and manage multiple projects simultaneously. If you say you have like an online store, it's all these different seasons and sales and campaigns that you have to manage. And that's a lot like managing multiple projects. Finally, a lot of us as women, we might be the caregiver, we might be the nurturer, we might have children of our own. And we all know that that's always something going on with that. And that's definitely a lot like managing multiple projects. So it's so many ways that having solid project management skills is going to be necessary for all of us. So why is project management beneficial? Like I said, it's going to have some personal benefits as well as professional benefits. Some of those, again, is like helping you organize your resources, helping you with setting smart goals that are actually attainable, and then helping you to be able to take a step back and see the big picture and make sure that everything that you're working on is running smoothly. It's also going to help you to foresee those risks, those road bumps that always come up. You're going to be able to track your progress and plan for those things and be able to pivot when necessary. It also helps you to really improve your communication. It promotes teamwork. Again, even if you're a solopreneur, it's not rare for you to have strategic partners, or you have colleagues and clients that you work with. So being able to effectively communicate is going to help you increase your productivity and manage your time more efficiently. So I do want to give the disclaimer that we're not going to, I'm sorry, we're not going to go too deep into the actual discipline of project management, but we're more so going to focus on some key principles and how they can be applied to your day-to-day life so that you can see the impact and progress right now. So a little bit about my perspective of project management. Project management is the art of making the impossible possible, making the difficult easy, and the easy elegant. And really, this quote, it reminds me a lot of womanhood in general, because it's often that we find ourselves managing all of these different things, whether it's in our business, our careers, our family. We're juggling a lot, and a lot of times we make it look good even when the back office is 10 types of crazy. So we're going to get more into that perspective as we dive into the first topic, which is really important, and that's going to be prioritization. So prioritization is going to be a critical aspect of you effectively managing projects. It's going to allow you to focus on what's most important and also make sure that you're using your time efficiently and effectively. Without prioritizing your tasks, it's going to be easy to get distracted. You might get bogged down with small things that don't really matter to the bigger picture. So prioritization is going to help you regain that focus. So I talked about a couple of key principles that we're going to discuss. The first of which is the 80-20 rule. So the 80-20 rule basically says that 80% of your results are going to come from 20% of your effort. So if you identify the 20% of your effort that makes the most impact, then you're going to be on track to prioritizing correctly and making sure that those most important tasks are completed first. Another principle that I love, this is my favorite one out of the two, is the Eisenhower matrix. So this is going to be a useful tool for prioritizing because it's simple. It's something that, you don't need a fancy tool or something to do it. You just need a sheet of paper. You can just really list out all of the things that you have going on, whether it's personal, professional. You want to make sure that you're getting all of that out there so you understand exactly what's coming up. So you're going to be able to prioritize those different tasks by what's urgent and important. And that means that you should do that first. What's important but not urgent, and that's something that you can schedule or do later. Things that are urgent but not important, and they can be delegated. And then things that are not important and not urgent. And really, that's just a wake-up call to refocus, and you don't worry about those. So doing this is really going to help you focus on what's important. Next, we're going to actually go through an interactive activity, which pretty much shows an example of how you would utilize the Eisenhower matrix. So usually you would start with all of your tasks lined up here. So as we go through, we see that there's the different tasks, some that I might do, some I schedule, some I delegate, and some I delete. So if you look at the column for what's urgent and important, those are going to be the tasks that might have a time limit or a deadline. Those are going to be the tasks that are most important to you. things like planning a getaway or attending your child's basketball game or certain projects that may be coming up for you, you can schedule those projects and set aside time so that you can narrow in and focus on just those things. I really want to highlight the delegate section. So those are the tasks that are urgent, but they're not important. They may be urgent to your business moving forward. It may be urgent to your client. It could be urgent to your family or even your teammates. But the key is to focus on what's most important for the goal that you're trying to achieve. And that doesn't mean that you just throw it to the wayside, but there's ways that you can delegate. And I'm actually going to be discussing a tool later in the presentation that will show you how you can delegate even if you're a team of one. So tip number 2 to help you with prioritizing. You want to make sure that you're using your project management tools. Tools like Asana and Trello, they help you to organize all of your tasks after you've gone through that step of prioritizing them by what's most important. So these tools are also going to make your delegation and your collaboration much more streamlined. Even when you're working with small teams, you're working remotely. You can share these projects with your clients and just help keep everyone on track and make sure everyone knows what's going on in the timeline of the project. So I would say my favorite tool for project management, it definitely has to be Asana. So I'm going to ask a rhetorical question, basically because I already know the answer, but how many of you are tired of unproductive Zoom calls? I'm just imagining everybody's hand going up. But I call these meetings about meetings. And that's basically when you have a meeting, but there's no action, there's no purpose. It's not serving anything, any intent. It's not pushing your project forward. So utilizing tools like Asana and their feature where you can record video comments directly into a task, that's something that's going to help you eliminate those types of calls altogether. So instead of going back and forth about a time and going to set up a Zoom link and then waiting for them to get there because they clicked on the Google Meets link instead of the Zoom link, that nonsense is no more. You just record a video, you ask, whatever question you need directly, you add it to the task, and boom, they know exactly what you need and how to complete that task. So remember, their urgency is not your emergency. And what I mean by that is proper planning and really laying out your task and what's a priority for you is going to help you not get distracted when everyone else comes to you with their emergency. It's guaranteed that it's probably going to happen, but it's okay to take a step back and slow down and realize what's most impactful and what your next step should really be. Also, by using the 80-20 rule and the prioritization matrix, you can prioritize those tasks more effectively. And like I said, just remember to stay focused on what's most important and impactful for you. So this next section, we're going to talk about perseverance and focus. So these are going to be some key ingredients for completing any type of project. Without perseverance, it's going to be a lot harder to bounce back from the setbacks that are bound to happen, because we all know that life be lifing, as they say. So without that focus, you'll get sidetracked, you'll get distracted, and eventually you'll lose momentum. But when you have perseverance and focus, it's going to help you stay motivated and stay on track so that you can achieve the goal that you're working towards. So speaking of goals, you always want to make sure that you're setting SMART goals. You want to make sure that you know the specific outcome that you're looking for as you get started. You want to make sure that your goal is measurable so that you understand and you know when you've actually reached the goal and when it's time to plan for the next step. You want to make sure that your goals are achievable. A lot of us, we have, big dreams, big ambitions, but we need to really assess and hold ourselves accountable and be real with ourselves. Like, do I have exactly what I need? And am I ready to attack this goal that I want? Or should I, break it down in milestones and maybe take it a little bit slower? You also want to make sure that your goals are relevant. How is this going to help you in the long run? And finally, you want to put a time limit on it. If you don't have a time limit, again, you don't know when you're done. So you want to make sure that you do that so that you can stay focused and know when to move forward. So because I know it's difficult to set SMART goals, I know firsthand really how challenging that can be. But what I've done, I went ahead and included a short quiz that's going to help you determine exactly where you are personally with your goal setting. And the link's going to be shared with everyone following the presentation. So tip number 3, you want to be able to focus your time with your productivity tools. So tools like Google Calendar, they have like a feature called Focus Time. I know that a lot of us have the screen time feature on our phones if we're Apple users, or Androids have whatever it is they have, and I'm sure they had it first, I understand. But these are the tools that are going to help you to be accountable for how you delegate your time. So if you're able to limit your distractions, like notifications from old classmates on Facebook, then you can stay focused on the task at hand. So tools for productivity. Again, Google Focus. I think this one really is a lifesaver for me. Aside from the fact that all of my responsibilities are constantly staring back at me on my calendar, it helps that I'm able to manipulate like the times that I'm available to take meetings, or set aside time for me to just have peace and quiet. Focus time is really important when you have more complex tasks and you really want to do some deep work and really focus on a complex project that you're working on. So overall, using focus tools is really just a great way to practice self-care and just really set those boundaries around how you're managing and delegating your time. Again, screen time. This for me is all about accountability. Usually I'll check my screen time maybe a couple times a month. I set limits around how much time I can spend in certain applications. And I also use my do not disturb feature so that I can control the notifications that I'm getting when I'm working. And it really helps with staying focused again. So this next tip, I think, is a really big one. It's one that's really critical to any project. You want to increase your productivity with effective communication. I think the next couple tools are probably my favorite because I'm really all about clear communication. Again, because I know that not communicating clearly, that can be to the detriment of whatever project or goal that you're working towards. So this first tool, I literally use it to write everything. I don't think I've written anything from a social post to a paper in class without using Grammarly. It's really an amazing tool. It helps you to craft messages that have a specific tone. And then you can even tailor those messages to the settings around your audience and who you're talking to. The really cool thing is that they have a Google Chrome extension. So it makes it accessible in other apps that you're writing in. So whether it's Google Docs, you might be designing a document for marketing in Canva, or writing an email in Gmail. But it's really useful to making sure that you're communicating in an effective and concise way. This next tool, I think, again, is one of my favorites. So this is one called Mixmax. So Mixmax is a tool that I use in conjunction with Gmail. And what it does is it uses artificial intelligence to determine the best time to send emails. So you can use it for scheduling emails to go out at a later time. You can embed your availability if you need to set up a meeting really quick on the fly. It'll also embed templates. So if you send a lot of repetitive messages or messages that you send out multiple times to different people, then it'll allow you to save those templates. The best part about Mixmax is that it's free. So anyone with a Gmail account can sign up for free and use Mixmax. So just to wrap up this section on focus, I believe that focus is the bridge between your vision and your reality. So having perseverance and focus is really going to be essential for how you successfully manage a project and how you complete and achieve your goals. Also, setting clear goals and really prioritizing those most impactful tasks is going to help you stay motivated and on track. And for me, I think that this skill also, it really amplifies the sometimes painful truth that really the only person keeping you from your goals is you. So as we go into this last topic, it's one that I believe, honestly, is the most important: delegation and self-care. So it's definitely going to be essential for you to know how to delegate, be able to do that effectively, and then also to just to be able to do so and take care of yourself while you're managing so many different things. Delegation is going to help you to share the workload and then also focus on the more important tasks that you need to be completing. And then the self-care, that's what's going to help you avoid burnout. It's going to help you maintain your energy. And together, it's going to help you stay productive and refreshed and ready to work. So now we're going to talk about some tools that I use for automation for repetitive tasks and workflows. So automating common workflows like your client onboarding, or you may be offboarding a client. You might be looking to collect reviews or testimonials about your services or your products. You can also use it for things like lead generation, and it'll give you that precious time back so that you can focus on what's most important to you. For me, automation is really a form of self-care because it allows me to be efficient, even though I am a solopreneur. It saves me time, and then in turn saves me money so that I can free up resources to do things that I care about. Finally, it gives me the autonomy to decide, like, yes, this time is for me, it's not for anyone else, and I'm okay with that. And I should have the right to put those boundaries around my time. So I think this tool is called Zapier. This is definitely, I think, the tool that saves me the most time. For example, here we have a depiction of my lead nurturing or lead qualification workflow. So it's basically a workflow that takes a potential client through all of the things that I need to decide how I can best provide value when I'm working with them. So for instance, if you come across my page on LinkedIn and you decide, hey, I want to work with her, you're going to be taken to my featured section on my LinkedIn profile where you can schedule a consultation call. During this call, once you are on the calendar and it's all set, you're going to receive an email that prompts you to complete an intake form. Also, once that email is triggered, it creates another action that automatically sets up your client portal in my CRM. It adds you to my mailing list, and it even invites you to become a part of my community. And this could be going on while I'm in class, or I'm at the spa, or I may just be taking a walk, who knows? But the important thing is that it's getting done and I'm not the one that has to do it. So some more tips for automation. This is a big one. Schedule your emails. I really can't stress this enough. It doesn't matter when you wrote the email. All that matters is that they got the email. So for me, it's really important that I don't let emails break my train of thought as I'm moving through my day. So I use my focus time, and I set aside time to go through my emails and triage and see, okay, is this something that I need to answer right now? Is this something that I can respond and schedule to go out later? It's just a matter of being able to effectively manage your time. This is another automation feature that you'll find on various social media platforms. For instance, on LinkedIn, they have a new scheduling feature, and that's what you see depicted here. I really feel like scheduling specific times to focus on your marketing and your social media, that's a form of self-care, because social media, it can just be a lot, especially for entrepreneurs who, you know, you might constantly be comparing yourself, or you might be dealing with imposter syndrome, or any number of things that you could be going through. Limiting that time on social media is going to help you to better maintain and keep that energy up. So using tools like Meet Edgar, Recur Post, and Later, it's going to help you to schedule those social media posts that are necessary to your business, but you don't actually have to have your eyes on it and be distracted by it and, overcome by it all the time. So just a couple of questions to think about. And I really want, you to be honest with yourself and, have some accountability when you're thinking about how do you delegate? Are you setting clear boundaries and expectations around your time? And, are you communicating effectively, not just with your clients, not just with your colleagues who you might happen to work with, but with your family and in your day-to-day life? Also, how can delegating tasks at home help you to prioritize your self-care? I know this is one that was really hard for me because as a woman, I was just used to doing things in the home and everything was on my plate. But it's okay to call the laundry service. It's okay to Instacart the groceries. And it's okay for the kids to have a frozen meal every now and then. So that's one thing that I've been just mindful of, and being kind to myself and making sure that I'm asking for help exactly when I need it. So just a couple other tips for how you prioritize your self-care. Get enough rest. This is one that I would say I learned probably from my business partner, who's also my husband. There's no problem that staying up all night is going to solve. So make sure you're prioritizing yourself and getting enough rest. Also practicing gratitude, just being thankful and being aware of how far you come and how many things you have achieved, and being okay, with still having some things that you want to work towards, but just being okay where you are in the moment. Also practicing being still. Again, as ambitious people, we often feel the need to just keep going and attacking the next goal and the next goal, but it's important to also take that time to just be still and reflect on everything that's going on around you. Finally, you want to move with purpose and intention. And also you want to prioritize the connections with people that make you feel good. Again, this is really important for entrepreneurs. We often deal, like I said, with doubt, with imposter syndrome, and not feeling like we are fulfilling our true purpose. But when you surround yourself with positive people, with other entrepreneurs that can really relate to what you're going through, then that's going to help you to also feel good about yourself and where you are. And finally, self-care is not selfish. You cannot serve from an empty vessel. So just remember, it's okay to prioritize yourself and make sure that you're where you need to be to take care of your responsibilities. So in conclusion, now this was pretty quick, but I definitely want to leave time for questions. We did cover a lot in this presentation on project management. We talked about the importance of project management, the benefits of effective project management, not just on our professional success, but also in our personal lives. We talked about how effective project management strategies can help you to identify the most impactful tasks and stay motivated and focused to make sure that you complete those tasks. And finally, we talked about how delegating tasks and taking care of yourself is going to make sure that you're where you need to be to reach the goals that you're striving to attain. So, again, we also provided some examples of how the different concepts can be applied in your real life. We talked about tools like Zapier, Mixmax, Asana, all different tools that can help you in managing your projects effectively. I really just encourage you all to take the time to reflect on the different topics that we discussed today and apply it to your own lives. And just remember that, it's about proper planning, but most of all, it's about taking care of yourself. You want to prioritize, you want to set SMART goals, you want to communicate effectively, you want to schedule and automate tasks, you want to delegate effectively, but most importantly, again, take care of yourself. So that is my presentation. I want to thank everyone for your attention. Hopefully you have some questions for me. Definitely feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. And if you found any of this helpful, I really want to know. So definitely share it with your networks and feel free to tag me.
Candace, thank you so much. The chat was really active during your presentation. I really think everybody got a lot out of it today. especially when you said their urgency is not your emergency. So can you share some tips on how to share why you're prioritizing the way that you are, and how to work with somebody that maybe feels or has different priorities, let's say?
Yeah, definitely. For me, I think the way that I prioritize, again, it comes out of necessity. I have 4 children. I'm currently a 1L in law school. I'm still working part-time and I'm still running my business. So being able to prioritize effectively is just really necessary. It's nothing in my world is going to stop going on because there's an emergency. So I think that the most important aspect of project management for me is being able to like foresee what could happen and already having a plan B, plan C for, when life be lifing, because it's going to happen.
That is what I'm taking into 2023, life be lifing. So thank you for that. Going back to a little bit about putting all of your project management stuff into practice. How often do you shift your list, or would you recommend an entrepreneur shift their list as far as checking in on SMART goals or even the Eisenhower matrix?
Yes. So that is something, it's always going to be a work in progress. For me, I try to do it in increments. So I have like long-term goals that might be like 3 months out. But for those short-term goals, just for managing my time on a week-to-week basis, every single Sunday night, I'm sitting down with my checklist and I'm marking things off and I'm rearranging things and I'm looking for what, might need to shift, just because, like you said, things are always happening. So I think it's really important to get into the routine of being accountable, because that's really what that is. It doesn't take a fancy tool. It doesn't take a subscription to anything. It's really just you sitting down with all of your things and organizing it, for yourself. So. I think you're on mute, Desiree.
Yes, I am. Thank you. Okay, so as a founder and leader of the team, it can be so hard to not feel responsible for supporting everybody on the projects that you've assigned, but no one wants to be the person holding it up. Is this something that you've personally navigated, or what advice do you have for people who are navigating this?
I think it's just important to give yourself grace and, again, to be communicative and ask for help. Being a leader doesn't mean that you carry everything. Mm-hmm. And being a part of a team doesn't mean that you can't step up and, pick up the slack and be a leader at times. As a solopreneur, I think it's even more important for us to think sustainably. It's just not possible for us to do all of the things. And it's okay to have that ambition and want to do it. But like using that prioritization matrix, using that 80-20 rule, like that's going to help you in channeling that ambition and really honing in on a specific goal that's going to make the most impact for you. Really, I think if you're working with someone who's dealing with something like that, the biggest part of it is mindset. And it's really just, it's sad because this generation, and I'm 32, so I'm a millennial, but you see this generation, like they call us a popcorn generation because everything is instant gratification. And that's just not how entrepreneurship is. I actually was listening to a speaker who was talking about her journey in entrepreneurship. And this is something that really resonated with me, but success is not a ladder. It's more like a jungle gym. Like you're going to fall off and you're going to get back up, and you have to keep doing that. You have to condition yourself to be able to shake it off and keep moving.
I think that is such a good metaphor. We do really think of it as it's linear. You do this thing and then the next thing comes, but to reframe it as a jungle gym, I think is so helpful. So that is something that I will be taking with me after this presentation as well. Courtney has a question about FOMO. You talked about social media, which can be a really important customer acquisition tool for entrepreneurs. How do you avoid that FOMO if you're not constantly checking it?
Ooh, I use my focus tools. It's really hard. And the psychology behind social media, like that's just another story, but it's literally designed to make you feel like you're missing out. Their whole purpose and goal for these social media platforms is literally how much time you spend on those platforms. I think again, just being accountable and thinking like, okay, so do I want to do this because I saw someone else doing this? Going back to your task list, going back to those goals. Is this something that was already on my to-do list or on my goals, like something that I want to achieve? I think for dealing with FOMO, you really just have to be accountable. And the best way to do that as a solopreneur is probably to have a supportive community, to have other people around you that can reinforce, you're doing the right thing, you're doing a great job. Honestly, that's what keeps me going a lot of times, because it's like I've done all these things, but at the end of the day, I'm a person, and you're always going to have that bit of anxiety and feel that fear like you're missing something. But I think having an accountability partner and like just really paying attention to the people that you keep around you and the people that you allow to reinforce you, and also just how you reinforce yourself, that's what's going to help you to kind of ease up and not worry about things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, that's a big part of why I can just speak on behalf of the foundation. We like to stress the importance of community because being an entrepreneur is just such a specific experience, and you need those people around you who can keep you accountable. So thank you for highlighting that and how that can be part of your project management. Selena had a great question about tools. How many tools is too many? How, just learning them can be time consuming. So how many would you recommend someone start with?
Yeah, I love that question. It really takes me back to when I first got started. Like I said, I started volunteering with different like community organizations. And that was one of the biggest things, like, okay, we need this tool for our CRM, and we need this tool for our website, and we need all these things. But sometimes none of that is necessary. It really is up to you and how you want to structure your business. If you're more of an analog person, then you may be able to take a notebook and write down all of your potential leads and take notes on the last time you spoke with them. But if you're kind of like me, you just have, a lot of things going on, it might be easier for you to have a CRM. That's one of the things that I really focus on working with my clients, to identify exactly where they are and what they need. Because the tool it's not always a tool that's the answer. Sometimes the only tool you need is a pen and a piece of paper. It just depends on where you are and how you want your business to look, when it's all said and done. So that's something that I really like work with my clients on, and make sure that they're utilizing tools and not just subscribing to things and paying subscriptions for no reason, because as a small business, that gets out of hand. So that's my biggest priority to my clients, is to make sure that they're efficient and they're productive, but it's not too much and it's not overkill. So we work to find that sweet spot for each client.
Mm-hmm. And switching gears a little bit, we definitely have people on today who maybe aren't they're not entrepreneurs, but they are interested in project management as a job. Do you think a project management certification is necessary to succeed and get respect, or is it more a matter of hands-on experience? And Victoria asked this question because it is such a big investment to get that certification.
It definitely is a big investment. I did not get that certification. I think if you want to pivot into any career or profession or industry, you want to focus on your transferable skills. So they might be like your soft skills, like, okay, I'm an organized person. I'm good with following through. I effectively communicate with people. Focusing on those skills that are not unique, those skills that easily transfer, is a good way to do it. Also, reaching out to like people in community, like on social media. You might say hashtag project management and search that on LinkedIn. And you're going to see all these people that are talking about project management. You might see people posting jobs about project management. Another very important step, if you want to pivot in thinking about changing careers, you want to connect with people. Being willing to go out and get that experience. If you're in a position to maybe volunteer, or you want to just kind of help out with some project that might be going on in your community so that you can get that experience. I think that's definitely an important step. And then finally, if you already know that you have the skills, you should speak up about that. That is one of the things that I would say is beneficial about social media, and about just creating digital content. It allows people to, see what you're talking about and come and find you. Like I can use the example just of how you found me for this presentation. You said you saw a project management article on my website and you reached out. So I think that it's important to just be vocal and be intentional about exactly what you want to do, and don't be afraid to reach out for help.
That is great advice. Thank you. So going back a little bit, someone did ask, when life gets in the way, maybe your kids are sick or someone on your team calls out. And I know you touched on this a little bit, but can you just say specifically, how would you shift priorities around when life be lifing?
One thing I will say, and I hope that more women are okay with being vocal about, like, no one is more of a priority than my family. And if you don't understand that, then, maybe we need to rethink this working relationship. At the same time, I do know that there's often times where you have a deadline and you cannot miss it. That's where proper planning and being able to use those project management skills and foresee all of the things that can happen is really important. I know I have 4 children, so the likelihood of one of my kids being sick is pretty high. So I have to, lean on my community oftentimes, and, sometimes it works out and sometimes it doesn't, but life is going to go on, and, it's not the end of the world if you have to pivot and make a last minute change. The biggest thing about when things do have to change is being able to communicate effectively. You don't have to share all of your business, but just being able to communicate and say, like, hey, can we possibly shift this deadline date a little bit? I had to take a day, my child is sick. Effective communication is always going to be, a positive influence to any situation like that.
That is great. So thank you. Let's see. We also had a question from someone who is new to project management. And this is their first time managing people and delegating tasks. And so they've asked, how can they step into this role being both approachable and gain and earn, or being respected, and keeping people on task without being pushy?
That's a great one. So that's one I would say I had a time with initially, especially with getting started in the pandemic and everyone's remote. You're working in close proximity with people, but you've actually never met them in some cases. I would say that setting those expectations, again, I'm going back to the effective communication, just being upfront about, your work style and what you expect of your team. And then also allowing them the space to share, their work style and what makes them comfortable. Making sure that you understand, like, their preferred method of communication. Making sure that you have like a centralized location for your projects and how you manage your tasks. So whether that be a spreadsheet in Excel or, Asana. So I think that just setting those expectations, that's the biggest thing that I've learned just in working with different types of people, and understanding how they respond to certain prompts. It's a learning process. When you're dealing with people, you have to just be adaptable and be okay with going back to the drawing board and saying, like, let's regroup, this isn't working, and be confident, because you're there for a reason. They put you in that position for a reason, because they felt that you had what it takes to manage the project and the people and the outcome. So just being confident and, okay with that.
So I hope that the person that was new to their role heard that and really took that in. Elisa just asked, how do you schedule your day to be most productive? I know that you talked about, going through your to-do list every Sunday, but is there something that you do during the day that sets you up to be the most productive?
Yes, I take frequent breaks.
Okay.
Yeah, I also, when I set up like my scheduling tools, I make sure that I add a buffer between meetings. Also, when I use those tools, I only allow a certain number of meetings each day. I think a big plus as well is like being able to, manipulate that focus time and just have, like, you can't access me unless I allow you to, like, you can't get on my meeting calendar on a certain day if I already have too many meetings. So for me, it's like being proactive and setting the parameters. It's like set it and forget it. You don't even have to worry about it. So that's the biggest thing for me, just using those tools to set the boundaries and the expectations.
Yes, boundaries. That's so important and something that can be difficult to learn. Something I certainly struggled with, but getting better. I'm proud of myself. I will say that. And so another question for you, Candace, when do you recommend bringing in an outside project manager versus doing the work yourself? And what do you look for when you are bringing in someone to help?
So knowing when to add a team member, that's something that's going to be really important. You have to assess like where you are just in your business. You want to make sure that you have enough revenue to be able to pay that person. My biggest fear is like hiring somebody and not being able to make payroll, things like that, So I think that just being mindful of how you ramp up when you're adding a team member, maybe start with like a freelancer or a contractor. I would definitely recommend platforms like Fiverr and Upwork and things like that, because it protects you as well as them. So it makes sure that, like basically your money goes into like a holding area until the project's actually done. Also just understanding exactly who you are as a business owner, and again, communicating those expectations. And then just having, boundaries. Again, that's going to be really important when you're thinking about building a team. Something that I would look for, like when I'm thinking about a project manager, this is going to be a highly organized person. It needs to be someone who can keep their cool under pressure. Someone who can learn from you as they work from you and kind of start to think like you so that you can trust them with more things. So I think that as a solopreneur, like, don't feel the need to just do everything yourself. I think if you start with like small things, just delegate small things in a controlled way, then you'll start trusting yourself more and you'll start to see that it's okay to let go.
Yeah. And to piggyback off of that, what about essentially project managing people outside of your organization? So for instance, getting clients to deliver things on time or working with vendors or outside collaborators. Are there other things that you do to get them to work well with you?
I get references.
Great place to start.
Yeah, definitely start. You want to do your due diligence. At the end of the day, it's your responsibility as a leader and as the head of your small business to make sure that, you know, you're finding someone that's qualified, that's actually, you know, committed to your mission. For me, it's been really important to build relationships with people. You know, you don't have to just be always looking for, you know, your next client or looking for your next contractor. Sometimes just building relationships and allowing things to happen naturally. Another thing is think about people in your network, in your field that might be doing similar things or adjacent things. You know, how can you work together to build capacity, even though you're not in the same business? You might be in the same industry, or you might work with a lot of different, you know, a lot of the same people, but, you know, it's a lot of overlap. So I think that the key to that is really building relationships.
Yeah, thank you. So going back to kind of the nuts and bolts of project management, let's say you've set up all these great tools for your team and you can't get them to actually use them. For example, like people are still sending emails instead of putting stuff into Asana. How do you recommend correcting for that?
So again, that goes back to your work style. For me, like I said, direct communication. So for me, I'm just gonna, you know, send a quick text like, hey, been in Asana lately, you know? That's really hard. I think having buy-in from your team when you're establishing your tools is going to be really important. Allowing your team to vocalize whatever, you know, issues or conflicts, or, you know, if they want to whine about it, cry about it, cool, you know, allow them the space to do that. But as a team, you have to come together and decide on, you know, what systems you're going to adopt and what tools you're going to use, because that's just how teams work. So honestly, if you have a teammate that's not doing that, then that sounds like an HR problem.
It could be,
Yeah.
but hopefully not. I
Yeah.
know sometimes people are just, you know, it takes them
They're stuck in their ways.
to break the habit. Yeah.
Encouragement, and like I said, just allowing them the space to be able to, you know, express whatever they're feeling towards whatever tool you're trying to get them to adopt. So
And how much time would you say, you know, teams should spend setting up these kinds of best practices? I feel like there's always kind of the tug of war between we're planning and we're executing. So I guess the question is, how do you prioritize prioritizing?
yeah, I would honestly recommend outside help, like finding someone that actually specializes in this, someone who can look at your organization and assess where you are and give you some suggestions. Because honestly, especially when you're thinking about systems and tools, there's no one correct way to do anything. And for every one tool that does a thing, there's 10 more that do it too. So having a person that has the expertise like myself, bringing them in to kind of assess the situation and make those recommendations is going to be really important. And it's going to help you save a lot of time, because honestly, that should not be the focus of your team unless you're to the point where you have someone on your team that actually knows and can, you know, confidently make those suggestions.
That is wonderful. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. It is always tricky to bring in outside help. I know, certainly in our entrepreneur community, people sometimes are not sure about that. So it always helps to have that reiterated. Okay, so how can a solopreneur, just a busy person in a company, keep themselves honest when it comes to self-care as a priority, when everything seems like a priority?
So that's the reason that I stress that so much, is because it's something like that literally has affected my life. Prior to becoming an entrepreneur, I was working on a federal government contract, and I had 2 kids at the time. I was working nonstop. They had unlimited overtime. I was literally working 80 hours a week, to the point where at 26, I had an emergency heart surgery. So for me, it was more so of like, if I don't take care of myself, then none of this matters. You know, if I say that my why is my children and my family, and I'm doing this for them, I have to also take care of myself to make sure that I can actually do, what I came to do. So at the end of the day, like, you can either prioritize your self-care and take care of your body, or your body's going to tell you when you're not. It's
Mm.
gonna, it's not going to be loyal to you. So the best option is to just, like you said, just be honest with yourself, make yourself a priority, and be okay with doing that. A lot of times we just need to give ourselves permission to take care of ourselves. So
That's absolutely right. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that story. Glad that you are healthy and here with us. And before we wrap up today, if we could just ask, what is the most important thing that you want people tuning in to take away from this session?
I think the most important thing that I think you should take away from this session is just owning your ability.
Mhm.
You have the tools, you have the skills, you have the ability. You just need to cultivate that mindset, develop a routine of self-care so that you can make that ability a sustainable one. So yeah, definitely focus on your mindset and do what you know that you can do.
Well, thank you, Candace. Those are such great words to leave us with as we go into the rest of our week. Thank you for joining us and sharing your expertise with our community.